Okay, all right, my name is Marisa, and this is a level 1, a ReformerFlow level 1, and before we get started, I just want to ask if there's any injuries or anything going on with the body that I should know about today that might change practice.
I'm fused in my spine.
Okay, what part of your spine?
T10 to SI.
Okay, so, and you've practiced Pilates before, so you know that when I'm cueing an articulation that you're going to go into a hinge lift bridge, and if anything else comes up during class, just let me know. I'm happy to offer modifications as we get moving here. Okay, so we're going to be on 2 reds and the blue. We're going to start on our reformers. You're all there already, and you're going to lay down with your head on the headrest, your shoulders slightly up against those shoulder blocks, and your feet on the foot bar. If you want to adjust your headrest, you're free to do that, up or down, depending on just how you feel comfortable there. And we're going to be on our heels in a parallel position, about hip distance apart. So heels lined up right against those sits bones. You're going to kind of draw the shoulders down out of the ears, reaching the fingertips long, widening through the collarbone. And we're going to start with a big inhale to fill the lungs. And as you exhale, you're going to push the carriage out towards straight legs. And slowly bring the carriage in, bending at the knees. Exhale to push the carriage out. Inhale to slowly pull it in. So as we continue to move here through our bend and stretch, we want to start to feel that neutral spine, neutral pelvis. So you've got that heavy tailbone on the carriage, the natural curve in the lumbar spine, the lower spine. You can start to knit the front ribs together so that the back ribs are nice and heavy on the carriage. And you want to start to feel that you're kind of linking your breath up with your movement. I like an exhale on the way out, inhale on the way in, but find what works for you. Good. Feeling as if the bottoms of those feet are pressed up against an invisible wall, pulling that pinky toe back towards you. We'll go out one more time, and then we'll bring it all the way in. Very nice job. Let's slide down to our toes, and we're going to go into a Pilates V with our heels together. Our toes just about 11 and 1 on the clock there, so not a huge turnout. Knees are right in line with the shoulders. Again, we'll take that big inhale. Exhale to push the carriage out, squeeze through the inner thighs, and then bring the carriage in. Let those knees separate about shoulder distance apart. So we're starting to find a little different position of our hips. That thigh bone is a little turned out in the hip joint, just getting the hips moving around in all different directions. And starting to work on the ankles and the calves a little bit. So I like to find a little point in the ankles as I extend, and then as I bring the carriage in, my ankles flex a little bit. So the ankle joint is dynamic here. It's not maintaining a super high heel the entire time. And again, just feeling that neutral spine, neutral pelvis, maybe even gently pressing the tailbone down into the carriage a little bit as you bring it in. Starting to pull the belly button back towards the spine, engaging through the midsection a little bit. We'll go out one more time, zipping up through those thighs, and then we'll bring the carriage in. Very nice. We'll go wide on the foot bar now, maybe out to the edges. It just depends on the length of your legs. We'll be on our heels, and we want to be outside of the hips a little bit, and we're going to be parallel. So again, making a number 11 shape with those feet, toes pointing up towards the ceiling. Inhale to really fill the lungs. Exhale to push the carriage out. Inhale to slowly bring the carriage in. So getting that mind-body connection going, using the breath to kind of time out your movement here, avoiding any kind of bouncing or momentum. So complete control on the way out and complete control and resistance on the way in. Nice long neck, collarbones are wide here, sitting into that deep squat. squat, driving through the heels and starting to warm up the lower body here a little bit. We'll go out one more time. Exhale, inhale to bring it in. Very nice job. We're gonna slide down to our arches. We'll stay a little bit wide here so that we can internally rotate with our toes pointing in, our heels pointing out, and maybe the knees come together or touch, and then we'll take an inhale, exhale to push the carriage out and bring the carriage in, just allowing that natural movement in the knees. So the knees separate as you push the carriage out, and then they come closer together, maybe even touching as you bring the carriage in. You've got the weight kind of on the instep of the arch here, so moving around, putting some pressure on different parts of the feet. And feeling the sits bones separate behind you a little bit now that we're internally rotated at the hips. Finding a little bit different sensation on the back body here. Using that exhale to draw the belly button back towards the spine. And we'll go out one more time, and we'll bring it in nice and slow. Good job. We're gonna keep our arches on the bar, but we're going to bring the feet together in the center of the foot bar so that we've got one leg instead of two. We're gonna really wrap those feet like a birdie on a perch. Squeezing through the inner thighs, we'll take an inhale, exhale to push the carriage out. Inhale to drag that carriage home nice and slow. Now that the legs are together, we can kind of focus on pulling up and in on those inner thighs a little bit, starting to engage those inner thigh adductor muscles. And really digging into the arches here. So strengthening through the feet, giving the feet some love. And maybe even starting to wake up the pelvic floor a little bit by pulling up and in on those muscles that make up the base of the pelvis and also help you to engage your lower abdominals a little bit. But that looks really nice. We'll go out one more time. And then we'll bend our knees and we'll bring the carriage in nice and slow. Good. We're going to slide down to our toes now, and we'll separate the feet about hip distance, so kind of mimicking how we would walk, right? Those heels right in line with the sits bones. Little lift in the heels, maybe about 3 inches. Inhale to fill the lungs with air. Exhale, push the carriage out. And then bend the knees to bring the carriage in, allowing the ankles to find some movement here too. So again, I kind of like to feel as if I'm about to take off from the foot bar on the extension as I push out, my ankles point, and then as I come in, it's like I'm landing on the foot bar, allowing the ankles, knees, and hips to flex a little bit. Warming up through the calves, the back of the lower leg, getting the ankle articulators nice and warm. Really pressing into those big toes and trying to make sure that all 10 toes are on that foot bar and that we're not leaving the pinkies out. Feeling that nice heavy tailbone, feeling the back body on the reformer, drawing those shoulders down out of the ears, using the core, pulling in the core to avoid allowing yourself to get smashed up against those shoulder blocks. On this next one, we're going to keep the legs straight, and then we'll exhale to send both heels under the foot bar. Inhale to come up high onto the tippy toes. So keeping those legs straight. And these are double leg calf raises here. And we do want to generate a little bit of warmth in those calves, so you might start to feel them get a little tired here. That's okay. And just focus on using that exhale to maybe sink a little bit deeper and then really coming up high onto those tippy toes, finding a nice full range of motion, avoiding any kind of hyperextension in the knees by pulling those kneecaps up into the quads, little micro bend in those knees. And And then we're gonna come up onto all 10 toes. We're gonna pause for a second and then drop just the right heel under the foot bar as you bend the left knee. And then come up high onto the tippy toes and go to the other side for a nice slow prance here. Strengthening through the calves, also stretching them out, stretching out those Achilles tendons. Just try to make sure the ankles and knees are tracking in line with the hips here. You're always welcome to peek down at your lower body just to see what's going on if you can't quite feel what's going on. And then we'll go into a single leg calf stretch here. So we'll drop one heel under the foot bar and we're just gonna hold that for a moment, using the exhale to sink the heel a little deeper, at the same time reaching the crown of the head back behind you, finding some length in your body here. And then we'll switch to the other side, dropping the other heel and taking a beat here just to get a nice stretch in that calf and ankle. Using that exhale to pull the belly button back towards the spine. And then we'll come up high onto the tippy toes. We'll drop both heels and we'll stretch out here in a double leg calf stretch. Again, just paying attention to those knees. We never want to hang out in the knee joint. And while we're here, we'll do a little foot massage by marching up and down the foot bar. Heels, arches, and toes. Finding those tender spots. I like to focus on that place where the heel and arch meet. Maybe getting the instep of the arch, the outstep of the arch. And then we'll march up to our heels in that parallel position that we started our footwork in, and we'll bend our knees to bring the carriage in. Nice job, you guys. We're gonna move on to warming up our abdominals a little bit. So let's bring our feet down to this great platform underneath your foot bar. And it's not a huge platform, right? So your arches kind of just straddle the bar with your heels a little bit further back. It's okay if your shins are touching. Hands are down by the sides with the palms facing down. We're gonna kind of walk those fingertips long, maybe scooch an inch away from your shoulder blocks. Good. From here, you're gonna take an inhale, fill those lungs. As you exhale, start to tuck through your chin, peel your chest up, and reach your fingertips towards the center aisle. Good. Inhale to lower back down. Exhale, scoop the belly as you tuck the chin, lift and reach those fingertips. Inhale, lower back down. Good. Exhale, use that breath to get a little bit higher up off those shoulder blades. Inhale, lower back down. Good. Continue with your breath here. If your neck is hurting at all, feel free to bring the hands behind the head for a little extra support for the neck. Otherwise, you want to keep rolling with your breath here. Good. On this next one, we're going to hold the chest lifted and do little reaches with those fingertips, little pulses with the chest, really getting into those abdominals, pulling that belly button back towards the spine. Good. Now bring the hands behind the thighs for a moment. Lift your chest maybe an inch higher, and then slowly roll it back down. Take a breath. Fill those lungs with air. Oxygenate those muscles. Good. Okay, now we're going to bring our feet up to the foot bar. And we're going to bring our right knee into a tabletop position, and then our left knee. Good. Really squeeze those inner thighs together here. Hover your hands about an inch off of the carriage. Take an inhale to fill the lungs. Exhale to tuck the chin, lift the chest, reach those fingertips long. Inhale to lower back down. Good. Exhale to lift and reach. Now you're imprinting that lower spine. Inhale to lower. Exhale to lift and reach. Inhale to lower. Good. Using the breath here again, hands can always come behind the head if you need a little more support for that neck, but we're strengthening our abdominals and those neck flexors as well. Good. Just like we did before, we're going to lift and hold on this one and do our little pulses and little reaches. We're pressing that lower back down into the carriage, really pulling that belly in. Good. For 5, 4, 2, 1, and rest. Nice job. Go ahead and float those feet down. We're gonna bring our hands to the pegs now behind us, those metal pegs. And as long as it's good for your shoulders, we want the elbows pretty wide here. And you want to feel as if you're pulling the pegs apart and pulling the shoulders down out of the ears. You're going to feel that engagement on the side of your ribs, those armpit muscles, those latissimus muscles. And once you have that dialed in, you'll bring your left knee into tabletop and then your right knee. Good, really squeezing those thighs together. You're going to bring your knees just 6 inches to the right and pause. And then inhaling to bring those knees back to center, exhale 6 inches to the left and pause. Good. Center on an inhale, so we're tick-tocking those knees just a couple inches over to the right, coming center, and then to the left. So while you're moving through this exercise, you're gonna start to feel those side abdominals kick on, those obliques, to help you move your legs over and then bring your legs back up to center. The opposite hip lifts a little bit, and as you come to center, it drops back down. The whole time you're pulling those pegs apart, dropping those shoulders out of your ears, and knitting the ribs together so that they're not popping up towards the ceiling. Use that breath to help you get through the hardest part of the movement. We're gonna do one more to each side. And then we'll bring our feet down. Very nice job. Now we're gonna bring our hands behind our head. So again, maybe scooting away from the shoulder blocks just a little bit. Hands will come behind the head, elbows are nice and wide. We'll bring our knees into that tabletop position. Good, nice strong tabletop here. You're gonna tuck the chin, lift the chest. Bring your right elbow towards your left knee, crossing over your body. Bring that chest center, but keep it lifted. And then opposite elbow towards opposite knee. Good, so crossing over the body, using that transverse abdominis, that big abdominal muscle, and also our obliques to get the rotation here. Imprinting that lower spine, right? So pressing that lower back down to keep the chest nice and lifted. Good. We'll do one more to each side. And then we'll come center, we'll lower our chest, and we'll lower our feet down to the foot bar and take a breath. Nice work. Okay, we're gonna warm up our back body now since we did all that work warming up the front body. So if your headrest is up, we'll go ahead and bring it down so that we're not crunching through the neck. And then we're gonna bring our feet back down to that gray platform that we were working on before with our abdominal warm up. Our hands are down by our sides. Again, shoulders drawing down out of the ears. And we're gonna start with some pelvic tilts. So as you exhale, you're gonna tilt your pubic bone towards your belly button and press the lower back down into the carriage. And then as you inhale, you're gonna tilt the pubic bone away from you, drop the tailbone down into the carriage, and find that natural pocket of air under the lower back. Exhale helps you to scoop that belly and imprint the lower spine, tucking through the pelvis. Inhale allows you to roll back to that neutral. So use your own breath here. Exhaling to tuck, inhaling to release. And you should find a little massage on that lower part of the back, that sacrum, massaging north and south. And you're starting to isolate the movement of the pelvis. Using your abdominal muscles to get that imprint to press the lower back down into the carriage. If you had a little bowl of water on your lower belly, as you tuck through your pelvis, you'd be tilting that bowl of water towards you. And as you untuck, that bowl of water tilts away from you. Good, and then we'll meet up in a nice neutral spine. So neutral spine is right in between those two movements, right? Where we've got that heavy tailbone, the little pocket of air under the lower back, and the back of the ribs nice and heavy. And we're gonna go up into our first bridge. So separate the feet about hip distance apart. Again, the arch is kind of straddling that platform. Inhale to really fill the lungs. As you exhale, start to tuck through that pelvis and start to peel your lower back, and then middle back, up off the carriage. You're squarely on your shoulder blades here. You want to inhale at the top, exhale to sink those ribs, tuck through the pelvis, and slowly melt the spine down, bone by bone, feeling that tailbone roll out last, inhaling at the bottom, exhaling to slowly peel that spine up off the carriage. Press those hands down into the carriage, inhaling at the top, exhaling to slowly melt down. Rolling the spine out, bone by bone. Inhale here, exhale, lift, and we're gonna hold this one up, pressing those hip bones up towards the ceiling, at the same time pressing the palms down into the carriage, keeping those ribs nice and knitted together, and then we'll slowly melt down, keeping those glutes engaged until the tailbone rolls out at the very end. Good. Now we're gonna bring our feet up to the foot bar, and we're gonna be on our arches about hip distance apart, heels right in line with those sits bones. And now we've got our feet a little bit higher, so we're gonna get a little bit more range of motion, but we wanna keep the weight on the upper back and shoulder blades, not into the neck here. Inhale, exhale to lift up into your bridge, pressing those hips high, inhaling at the top, exhaling to melt down. Good, so we're gonna roll in and out of this bridge just like we did when our feet were on the platform, using the breath, use the entire exhale to lift the hips, big inhale at the top, and then the entire exhale to melt that spine down nice and slow. We're trying to keep that carriage closed, right? It's gonna wanna drift away, so we're pulling our heels to our sits bones to keep the carriage closed. Good, using that breath, we're gonna lift up and hold on the next one. Good. And we're gonna do little pulses here by dropping the hips 2 inches and lifting. So a little release of those glute muscles and then a squeeze of the glutes. You could almost think of it as a pelvic tilt here, right? Tucking that pelvis and untucking the pelvis for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Press the hips high, pull the carriage closed if it drifted away, and slowly melt down. Very nice. Let's stretch our legs a little bit. We can hug our knees into our chest, and then we can kick our legs up towards the ceiling to stretch out the hamstrings. They can get a little crampy when we do our first bridge of the day. And then we're gonna bring our feet back to the foot bar. And this time we're gonna be on our heels. And our hands are down by our sides, shoulders out of the ears. Take a big inhale. Exhale to tuck through the pelvis, start to lift those hips up. Good. So from here, we're gonna go, we're gonna do a little bit of a hip dip. So the right hip is gonna drop just 2 inches to the right, come back up to center, and then 2 inches to the left. So it's a very small movement, almost like your pelvis is an upside down hammock, dropping to the right and left, isolating just that one side. So when you drop to one side, you'll feel that hamstring and glute have to kick on a little bit harder. And we're still pulling those heels towards our sits bones to keep the carriage nice and closed. We'll come center here. We'll lift our hips high on an inhale, and exhale to slowly melt the spine down. Very nice job. Okay, now that we've warmed up our back body, our front body, our lower body, we're gonna sit up off our carriage to do a little equipment change, and then we'll get going again. So we're gonna take our box, which is up next to our springboard, and we're gonna bring it onto our carriage in a long box position. So we want the short edge of the box flush up against those shoulder blocks, so it's nice and stable and when it's centered on our machine here. And we're gonna come down to 1 red spring. You are going to sit on your box with your feet resting on your headrest, facing the mirrors. And then you're gonna reach forward and grab those short loops. Good. So before we get started, we're gonna kind of dial in our posture here a little bit. We wanna roll those shoulders back and down and reach the crown of the head towards the ceiling. So we've got a nice strong posture. Our ribs are floating right over our pelvis here. So we've got a nice strong core. And then our hands are gonna come out to a low V. Inhale to grow tall. Exhale, squeeze the shoulder blades behind you. Inhale, release. Good. Exhale, engaging that upper back. Inhale, release. Good. So your arms are coming back, right? Your hands are moving a little bit back behind you, but the movement is coming from those shoulder blades and the muscles between the shoulder blades. The triceps are also working, those muscles at the back of the arms. And our shoulders are working too, even though we're trying not to keep this too much in the shoulder or in the neck area. Good. Exhale to pull back, squeezing through the back body. Inhale, release. Nice small range of motion here. The slower you go, the more muscle you build. Good. And on this next one, we're going to hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Good. Roll those shoulders back and down a couple of times. You're going to keep your hands in those short loops and flip your palms up towards the ceiling now. Good. Again, we want nice wide collarbones. We want a nice strong posture. Inhale, exhale, bend the elbows for your bicep curls. Inhale, release. Good. So we want to feel like the upper arm bones are kind of resting on a shelf here. But if it feels like it's getting too much into your neck, you can drop those elbows down a little bit. Your arms are working, your biceps are working, but your core is also working really hard here. So you're really shrink wrapping the belly, waist, and back. Everything's pulling in towards midline. And those shoulders are dropping down out of the ears. That belly button's pulling in nice and tight. Good. Nice strong wrists. We don't want those straps to pull our wrists into any weird positions. Good. On this next one, we're going to pull the hands back towards the shoulders, and we're doing just a half range, up to 90 degrees and back. So we're kind of focusing on that end range of the movement, really squeezing through those biceps for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Nice job, you guys. You can fold forward for a moment. Just feel those shoulder blades separate behind you, getting a nice stretch in the upper back. And then we're going to roll it up to a tall spine. Good. We're going to keep our hands in the short loops and bring our fists just to the center of the sternum here. Right at the center of the chest, rolling those shoulders back and down. Inhale to grow tall. Exhale, you're going to start to tuck through that pelvis area. You're going to kind of hinge back here. We're just going back a little bit to get that belly engaged. Once we're here, we're going to rotate to the right with that right elbow and then come center and rotate to the left. Good. So it's a small movement here. We're starting to carve out those side abdominals, get into those obliques a little bit. And the rotation's coming from the belly button, from the torso. So our hips are staying nice and square to the mirror. You're pulling that belly button in so that the belly's getting the work here, not so much those hip flexors that like to take over. Good, that looks really nice. One more to each side. And then we'll come center and we'll roll it up to a tall spine. Nice job, you guys. We're gonna hang those loops up on the pegs. And then we're carefully gonna kind of step off our box onto our mat side. And we're gonna come to use our springboard. So facing the springboard, you wanna take your yellow springs and bring them down to about shoulder height. So usually an 8 or a 9. And then we're gonna turn around and face the center aisle. I know, I always say if you're in between to go higher, but you look pretty good there.
Girl, You've grown. You should go up.
You think I'm that tall?
Yeah.
All right.
You go. Take it.
You take those springs up
Yeah.
to a number 9.
You own it.
Okay, so we've got those handles in our hands, and our feet are gonna come a little wider than the hips here. So we're still in parallel, but we want a nice strong foundation with our lower body. And then we're gonna bring our elbows right in line with our ribs here, and our palms are facing up towards the ceiling. Again, rolling those shoulders back and down, lifting through the crown of the head on an inhale. Exhale, you're gonna lengthen those arms forward like you're presenting a platter, and then bend the elbows low right next to the rib cage. Good, exhale to reach, inhale to bend. So the goal here is to keep the torso nice and strong, right? Those springs are gonna wanna pull you back, so you're really engaging through the core to keep everything still except those elbows and those shoulders that are reaching forward. So when we were doing chest expansion at the Reformer, we were working the back side of the shoulders. Now we're working the front side of the shoulders and those pectoral muscles. So as I reach my arms forward, I like to feel the shoulder blades separate behind me a little bit. And then as the elbows bend, the shoulder blades come a little bit closer together. Good. I like to exhale as I lengthen, inhale as I bend, but find what works for you. Use that nice strong breath, maybe that candle breath, like you're blowing a candle out. Good, that looks really nice. One more. And bend the elbows, just relax for a moment. Drop your right ear to your right shoulder. Come back up to center, drop your left ear to your left shoulder. Do you think it's still filming when it goes black like that? Okay, I hope so. I hope so. Okay,
You'll let us know if it doesn't.
I'll let you know.
We'll be back here again
Yeah.
for another
We'll
time.
just make it a weekly private session. Okay, so for this next one, again, we're gonna be feet a little bit wider than the hips here. And our hands are gonna be down by our sides. Inhale to grow tall. Exhale, reach the arms out just like we did before. Now rotate the palms in towards each other, a little bend in the elbows. And we're gonna draw tiny circles, nice round, small circles with those shoulders. Good. Nice strong wrists. Trying to relax through the neck. And keeping that nice strong torso. Now we're gonna switch directions with our circles. Good, hugging that belly button in, reaching the crown of the head tall for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Nice job, you guys. We are going to take a quarter turn to the right. So you can drop your right handle other way. No, Sherry, you were right. I'm sorry. This way. So yeah, drop your back handle. We're just gonna work with our front handle for now. You're about a foot or two away from your springboard. And anytime we're working at the springboard, if you feel like you need more tension, you can always move further away. Less tension would move you closer to the springboard. So in that right hand, you're gonna have your handle, and you're gonna interlace your fingers right at your sternum. Your feet are a little wider than the hips here. You're making a nice round shape with your arms like you're holding a giant beach ball. Inhale to grow tall. Exhale, rotate towards the center aisle just a little bit. Inhale, center. Good. So oblique twist. You're gonna feel that right oblique really kick on, the left oblique to help. And we want the hips again to stay square, right? So you wanna kind of feel like you're wringing out the torso by rotating to the left. And maybe if you feel like your hips are trying to come along for the ride, sometimes I even twist my hips slightly to the other side.
Oh my gosh.
Good. Using that exhale to rotate the torso, inhale to center. And we'll make this our last one. Good, very nice. We're gonna drop that handle, we're gonna turn around. We'll do this on the other side, grabbing our handle in our left hand down, interlacing the fingers right at the sternum, rolling the shoulders back and down. Inhale, exhale, rotating to the right now, carving out those obliques, those side abdominals keeping those hips nice and square, a little micro bend in the knees. And we're still really strong in our core here. So really pulling that belly in, hugging those ribs together, using that breath. Good. That looks really nice. Let's do one more. And we will rest. Nice job. We're gonna face our ballet bar now. And we're gonna take our blueberry ball and we're gonna bring it in between our thighs, okay? So we're just gonna do a little lower body work here at our ballet bar. We're gonna bring our hands onto the bar and our feet are probably a little wider than the hips here because we've got that ball. We wanna avoid the knee joint. Inhale, grow tall. Exhale, sit back into a little squat here, bringing the weight back into the heels. And then inhale, we're gonna stand right back up. Good. Exhale, weight comes back into the heels as you sit back. Inhale to stand. Good. So warming up, getting nice and warmed up through that lower body here. The weight's so far back in the heels, you could probably even wiggle your toes a little bit. Good. And the ballet bar is there for support. We don't want to put too much weight into the hands. On this next one, we're going to hold it back and do little squeezes in on that ball. And don't be afraid to really poke that booty back, right? We don't need to tuck through the pelvis here if that hurts the knees. For 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we'll go ahead and stand up. We'll take that ball out and we'll place it back onto that roller. Good. We're gonna come back to our reformer just to grab our box and bring it back onto our mat. And instead of suitcase style, we're gonna put it flat so that we can use it for a little bit of planking work. And then you're gonna stand right in front of your box here. We're just gonna do a little transition by inhaling, bringing the arms up overhead, exhaling to dive forward, placing your hands onto the box. Yep. And then you're gonna walk your feet back and come down onto all fours, facing your box. Yes, perfect. Okay, so the forearms now are gonna come down onto that box with your elbows right underneath your shoulders. Your knees are right underneath your hips and your toes are tucked a little bit. Good, we're gonna go into an exercise called bear. You're gonna exhale, lift the knees just to hover a couple inches off the mat, and then inhale, lower back down. Exhale, lift and hover those knees. I know this is really hard work. Inhale, lower back down. Good, really pressing that box away as you lift the knees to hover and then lowering back down. Good, really pressing the box away, separating those shoulder blades, scooping the belly out. On this next one, we're gonna hold our knees to hover and we're gonna hold here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Good, go ahead and go into a child's pose if that feels okay by sitting your hips back onto your heels. And while you're here, your front lungs are a little compressed, so it's a good opportunity to breathe into those side and back lungs, getting that nice 360-degree breath going. And we're gonna come back onto our forearms. And we're gonna go into our first plank here. So, welcome to keep the knees down, or you can reach one leg back behind you and then the other. And finding that nice long position from the crown of the head to the shoulders to the hips to the heels, right? You're scooping that belly up and in. You're really pressing that box away with the forearms, reaching the heels back behind you. Keep breathing, crown of the head reaching towards the springboard. 5 seconds here. Last 3, 2, 1, and go ahead and rest. Nice job.
I win.
You did. You closed the exercise, right?
I gotta go. I'm done. It's over.
It's over. Done.
Thanks, Marisa. See you next time.
You didn't even get the best part, the being straps. Okay, you guys, we're gonna go ahead and go into one more plank here. And this time, if you wanna pop up to your hands just for a more extended plank, a higher plank, you can do that. You'll reach those heels back behind you. Now if you're on your hands, you want to spread those fingertips wide, really press the fingertips down into the box. Good, and on an exhale, you're gonna lift your hips up towards the ceiling. On an inhale, you're gonna roll the spine forward, coming back into that plank, head comes up last. Good, exhale to lift the hips. Inhale to roll back, undulate the spine back into that plank. Good, last one here. And we're gonna lift our hips to hold. And we're gonna walk our feet towards our hands. You can bend your knees as much as you need to. And then slowly roll it up, restacking the spine bone by bone. Nice job, you guys. Go ahead and leave your box there. We're gonna come back to our reformer to put our feet into the long loops. I've got you on one red, one blue. Head could be on the headrest, which could be up or down. And then you'll push the carriage out, bringing one long loop around the sole of one foot, kicking through that heel and putting the other loop onto the other foot. Good. Let's meet up in a hamstring stretch so we can reach those feet up towards the ceiling, but anchor down through the tailbone here. If it feels okay to gently tug on those ropes, feel free to do that. You can flex and point through those ankles a little bit. And then we'll bring our hands down by our sides. We're gonna bring our legs together, and on an exhale, lower both straight legs about 45 degrees down towards the foot bar, and then lift those legs up towards the ceiling. Good. I like an exhale as I lower my legs down, inhale as I lift, but again, finding what works for you, what feels intuitive to your body, getting that mind-body connection. So we like to start class with footwork, which is a neutral spine, neutral pelvis, and we typically end class with feet and straps, which is also a neutral spine, neutral pelvis. So feeling that nice anchor of the tailbone, the little pocket of air under the lower back, shoulders are back and down, neck is nice and long. Let's add some ankle flexion here. So as you lower those legs, flex the ankles, and then point the ankles as you lift them up towards the ceiling. Good, and everyone's range of motion is gonna be a little bit different depending on their hamstring flexibility and just the anatomy of their hips even, right? So try not to focus on what your neighbor's doing. Feel in your own body. As you lower those legs down towards the foot bar, if you feel that lower back start to peel up, that's where you stop your range of motion. Conversely, as you lift the legs up towards the ceiling, if you feel the tail start to curl, that's also where you stop. Good, that looks really nice. Now we're gonna lift our legs up towards the ceiling at that 90-degree angle, click our heels together, toes apart, and lower both legs down halfway. Good. Keeping the heels together, bend the knees in towards the chest, knees come in line with the shoulders, and then kick the heels long over the foot bar for frog. Good. I like an inhale to bend my knees, exhale to lengthen, but find what works for you. And again, finding that range of motion that works for you. So as the knees bend, keeping that tailbone anchored as the knees lengthen, keeping that neutral lower spine, keeping those lower belly muscles pulled in nice and tight here. And again, let's add some ankle flexion by pointing those ankles as we extend and flexing the ankles back as we bend. Good, really zipping up through those inner thighs here as you lengthen. And pulling that lower belly back towards the spine as you draw the shoulders down out of your ears. Good, one more time. And then we'll reach our straight legs up towards the ceiling, parallel our feet, and we'll open the legs just the width of the foot bar, lower the legs down towards the foot bar, close the legs, and lift them up towards the ceiling. Good, again, opening just the width of the foot bar, lowering down, and coming back up through midline for open leg circles. So finding your range of motion here. Sometimes I like to put my fingertips on my hip bones and just feel what's going on with my pelvis. We want the pelvis as fixed as possible here. And even though those thigh bones are kind of rotating around in the hip socket, just keeping them nice and stable. Maybe starting to open your circle a little bit if you feel like you can maintain that stability. Like a nice yawn through the hips here. We're gonna reach those legs up towards the ceiling and then lower straight legs down towards the foot bar, open the width of the foot bar, circle up and around now, and close those legs at 90 degrees. Isolating the movement of the thighs and the hips, but still active in the core, right? We're not lazy through our core. We're pulling the ribs in, pulling the lower belly in, working what needs to work, but turning off what doesn't need to work, like our neck and our face muscles. Good. And then we're gonna lower our legs down to 45 degrees, press pause, internally rotate, toes and heels out, open just the width of the foot bar, and then externally rotate to click, click, click the heels together. Internal rotation opens the legs, external rotation clicks, clicks, clicks those heels. Good, so like you're swimming your feet through the air, getting some movement in those hips, working those inner thighs a little bit as you click, click, click those heels together. Good, that looks really nice. And then we're gonna go into a lotus stretch here, so we can bring the bottoms of the feet, the soles of the feet together, knees poke out right and left, and you can either let those feet kind of drift down towards the carriage or the spring well, or you can pull them in towards your body. You just wanna find some opening in the hip flexors here, a little bit of length on the inner thighs. And then we'll reach our legs up towards the ceiling for one last hamstring stretch. Little gentle tug on those ropes. And then we'll go ahead and take our feet out of those loops one at a time. We'll hang them up behind us, and then we'll come off of our carriage. And we're gonna just sit sideways on our carriage. We're gonna end with a little bit of a side bend. So you can have your legs just draping over the front, but you can scoot back a little bit on your carriage here. And then bring your right hand to the foot bar in front of your shoulder so that you're not reaching back behind the shoulder. And then the other arm is gonna come out to a T. Inhale to grow tall. Exhale, think up and over as you push the carriage out, side bend to the right, and then inhale to come back to center. Good. Exhale again, expand and side bend. So you're not collapsing into the right side, you're lifting and folding, squeezing through the right side as you get a little length in that left side. Keeping that neck in line with the rest of the spine here. Pulling that lower belly in. You want to feel like you're moving that upper body through two panes of glass. Good, one more. And then you can just spin around right where you're sitting here. Scoot the booty a little bit back towards the edge of that carriage. Bring the left hand to the foot bar, right arm to a T. Inhale, exhale, think up and over as now you side bend to the left. And inhale, coming back to center. Good. As you side bend, squeezing through that left side body, getting a nice stretch on the right side. Good. Keeping that chin from jutting forward. Sometimes it just does that and we don't even know. One more time here. And then we'll come to center, and we're gonna spin around so that we can come to our mat side and come to our mat for our final roll down of class. So we'll bring our feet right underneath our hips here, roll those shoulders back and down a couple times. Inhale, arms come up overhead. Exhale, little bend in the knees as you start to dive forward here. Bringing the hands to the mat, bend the knees as much as you need to really relax through the head, neck, and shoulders here. Maybe giving those legs a little pedal out, right and left. And then coming center, shaking the head no a couple times. Shaking the head yes a couple times. And then slowly rolling it up, restacking the spine, bone by bone. Inhale, arms come up overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. And you are all done. Good job, ladies.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, so